Alright, got another video. Woo. These are the types of videos you have to be honest towards. And without that, you can't permanently quit an addiction or your vice, and you fall off the idea of having a higher quality life. And what I'll introduce to you will be a practical standard which you can apply today and see results. Like, I'm not bullshitting, it's not for clickbait, and like, you can literally go and do this obviously after you watch the video, and you will see the results and see the steps towards quitting your addiction, right? And I want you to be aware that if you decide to click off this video at some point, you're just going to be you're going to be limiting your beliefs, and you're going to be limiting your capability of quitting your addiction or your vice, and be able to instead reorient it towards something else which you could do that would benefit your life in the way you desire. So, I won't hold it any longer. I'm going to go straight into it. The standard you need to do is to organize today. Here's what I mean. You need to get some sort of schedule so that way you can develop a habit of what you do during that time of the day on normal occasions, right? Because obviously there's going to be some circumstances where you go, okay, I can't do this because of that, whatever, I got a funeral to go to, right? Okay, fair. But at least you can develop this schedule so then you have an idea of what to do at what time of the day, instead of trying to wrap your head around what productive activity you'd like to replace something with at that time that you have time for. And instead of, you basically eliminate making 5 decisions in one moment and then completely losing your thought and distracting yourself, to having one decision made out for you that you thought of previously during a time where you actually sat down and said, okay, this is going to be my schedule. Trust me, I've done it. It's a lot easier now. I have a schedule right here. I'll show you. Right. It's something like this, right? You get something and you write down the times, what you're going to do, and then you can go off somewhere else, because I didn't have enough room in the paper. You can go off somewhere else and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to specifically focus on today, right? Because maybe there's something in there you're like, journal. Or like, maybe you're like, let's see here. Maybe you're going to go and read, right? Maybe just have someone else read. Okay, well, what are you going to read? I know I'm going to read this. It's something like that, right? Very simple. Nothing too complicated, okay? And you can give yourself some time before actually continuing to make it, so that way, like, before you keep playing this video, so that way, you know, you have a schedule to go off of, and the rest of the video will make more sense based off of this schedule. So I recommend you go do that. Just pause the video, go make a script. Maybe even if it takes half an hour, just do it, come back. It probably won't take you that long. It'll take you probably like 5-10 minutes, because in reality, you actually really do know what you want to do with your time. It's just no one actually taught you that you should actually plan it out, because, like, school doesn't really teach you time management very well, because they manage it for you, right? So, all right. So what I want you to do now, after you've written your schedule, presumably you came back, put it up on your wall, or put it in a place where you're always capable of seeing it, and then treat the schedule as a self-analysis. What I want you to do now is in order to end up treating it as an analysis, I want you to make a task list. This list should basically embody your schedule. Like, literally go, okay, maybe your one thing is like, take a walk, okay? Take a walk, you put it down with a box in front of it on a different, like, piece of paper. You put it down, you put a box on it, and you check it. Or you put 1, 2, 3, right? And then what I want you to do is to begin to label how many days, or in like a certain timeline, you can set as week, month, multiple months, whatever, you do this activity. Now, don't go for every single day at first, because if you're able to do that, you wouldn't be here. I promise you that. If you're able to sit there and genuinely focus on a structured schedule for that long, you never need to see this video. You wouldn't even click on it. The reason why you need this is because you don't know how to follow up on this. Here's what I mean. When you begin to have a schedule, you never really went into deeply onto it, and oftentimes a lot of people don't put it into their sight because, well, out of sight, out of mind does actually exist. And oftentimes what'll happen is that you'll get a couple thoughts at the beginning. Oh yeah, you made that schedule, you're gonna follow it. And then if you don't have it in front of you, you could be like, oh no, I got this thing to do. And then yet again, and then you never really ask yourself, is that thing prioritized over my schedule? Right? Because you don't even have one. So that's why you're here. You need a schedule. So what I want you to do is take that task list and instead set a goal of how many days you want and whatever timeline, right? Maybe I recommend if you think you could do all of them, do half. Set your goal to being half of the months, half the days of the month, or half the days in a week. And then every time you succeed, only go up by one. This is very important because if you go up by multiple ones, it makes it more challenging and it makes it much more difficult for you to actually want to complete. Now I'm not saying like go by like, oh, do it one day a month, but like set it somewhere where you know it's going to be enough challenge for you. And then when you complete it, okay, you complete the challenge, you get to the number, and then go up one from whatever number it is on whatever activity, right? Maybe you only end up going to the gym 8 days in the month for whatever reason, right? Make it 9. Don't try to make it 15, because then it's a lot more challenging for you to be like, oh, I got to scramble around, find a schedule, and then you totally miss out on the thing you're actually supposed to be doing at that time. So just upgrade it by 1, so that way you don't overcomplicate things. And it becomes a lot easier because you get a positive reinforcement mechanism, which says, okay, this schedule is easy as shit. I can follow it every day, and boom, 7 days, boom, 8 days, boom, 9 days. And rather of trying to enforce a strict habit over a shorter period of time, maybe within 3 years, you're able to follow a schedule better than 99% of people. Because you have your own schedule that fits your life. That's what I'm saying. So, I worded it as this, to put it in more better words. Do not go any higher because you have time. I'd rather you develop rock solid habits after 3 years than sponge habits after 7 months. Obviously, you should know what I mean by that. So now, I have this idea of that we covered how, let me reword that. We've covered how to quit our addiction, right? And we've covered what to do to quit it. But what about that thing? What about the actual addiction itself, right? And I have a lesson actually from Andrew Huberman that I'm going to present to you in this video that literally allows you to rewrite the addiction into something you want to be addicted to. Sounds weird, but just hang in with me, all right? Real simple steps, okay? The first part, I guess before I go this, I would recommend doing meditation at some point because it allows you to become aware much easier. But anyways, be aware when you feel like doing the addiction or right after doing that bad addiction or habit, right? And when you get this feeling or afterwards, whichever one it is, do the habit you want to implement instead to replace it. You're not counteracting it. You're not trying to attack the actual habit, you're just trying to replace it. Because in other words that I heard from somebody else, you can't actually like break a habit. Because think about this, right? Riding a bike. Everyone knows that they can ride a bike, okay? I haven't rode a bike in 6 years. If I pick up a bike, give me 10 minutes and I'll ride it again. Just like I did before. Same thing for you, right? Like if you were illiterate, learned how to read, and then never read for 6 years, you could pick up reading and it'll take you maybe like an hour, boom, you're back at it. You can't actually unlearn it because, at least this is more my theory part here, but it's because the neurological structures of your brain, they like kind of light up in a way, and then they teach the brain, okay, this is a signal that goes to this, that makes you do this successfully, right? That's how you're able to do a push-up without trying to use one elbow and one hand, right? Because you tell yourself, what the fuck is this? This is not a push-up. This is like some gorilla shit. And then you go and do a push-up. Boom. So basically, after you've done your bad habit or whenever you feel it, especially if you just did the bad habit, right afterwards or right as you're feeling it, replace it with that. So that way, what'll happen is neurologically, you're basically telling the signal of your brain that when they feel this way or when it feels like this, you're actually doing this. And it basically causes, like, I'll call it neuron replacement, but that's kind of a bad term. So basically what happens is instead of the signal going to, oh, okay, I'm going to go do that one thing that you don't like, you're basically telling yourself, oh, wait, now there's this signal, so I got to match up with this. And your brain keeps doing, and then you got to consciously keep doing that until eventually your brain will replace that feeling with doing that instead. And then now, and you have to make sure that every time you get that feeling, you end up doing that activity. So if you end up, now obviously it's kind of difficult if you're like in a workplace scenario, but I think it's still doable. It's just like kind of weird. And it depends on what you do. But like even like, okay, stretching, right? For a work example, okay, I'm gonna stretch every time I feel this way. Boom. Now you're telling yourself, okay, when I feel like this, I'm gonna stretch. And it's super simple. And then over time, you basically just end up replacing it, and there you go. You basically, it's like learning how to ride a bike but better, right? It's like, okay, maybe instead of like pulling backwards on the pedal and trying to go forward after, maybe it's just straight up go forward, right? Stupid example, but you get the idea. And for a bonus tip before this video ends, because now we know how to apply when in the present moment when our addiction hits us, we know what our main combatant is to quit the addiction, and we know what time of the day we're going to implement certain habits into our life. We've got all three of those checked off. And this next tip is that environment matters. And I have this curious theory I'm going to put at the end of this, but it makes things a lot easier if you're not in the exact environment where your addiction occurs at first. So that way, when you are replacing it, you don't get a strong urge afterwards to do that other thing again, right? Especially if you do something physically demanding as your replacement, right? If you're, I don't know, like maybe you're doing like 10 crunches every time you get the feeling. If you're doing the crunches and then going to the habitat where you're feeling that way, you're going to end up killing your abs, which I mean, if you want to do that, go ahead. And here's my theory part, which I kind of linked it here, but I don't really know what would happen, but what I want you to try, and obviously you can go back to the regular stuff if this doesn't work, is when you get that feeling, right, do the thing, go into the environment that you usually feel that thing, like when you can, obviously. If you're working, then obviously you probably can't, but go to that place, and then you kind of almost force yourself to do it again. It's basically like getting extra reps whenever you want to, and you have to just be conscious of that. Okay, I'm in the environment where my addiction occurs. I need to leave the environment if it gets too bad. Like if it gets like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like start transitioning over, then just don't do it and get out. Just do anything else. Your brain will think about it for a while, but if you literally just, I mean, I don't want to say distract yourself, but like in a way it is distraction. It's just more sophisticated distraction. But that's the theory part, and I'm going to leave that for you. So if you understand all of this, you can start emphasizing to yourself, because this will also gain your self-confidence, that you're going to quit your addiction, you're going to replace it with the thing that'll make you feel better, and you're going to have a ultimately more fulfilling experience of your life, and maybe you can teach this to somebody else as well. All right. This is how to quit your addictions. And as always, we're here to help you help them. And I actually can't end this, so you get a little sneak peek at the floor.